Donald Trump was correct in his debate when David Muir fact-checked him, I'll do air quotes for that, and said violent crime is down. Donald Trump said it's not being reported properly, and we have a bombshell report not right now. Real Clear Investigations has discovered the FBI has stealth edited its crime rates. They are way up, and we knew this. Anyone with an ounce of honesty in their body and the ability to do a Google search knew that the FBI was underreporting crimes in major cities because the police departments were not cooperating. And that's not even the half of it. Now the FBI quietly updates its numbers, saying nothing. Now here's where it gets crazy. Merrick Garland came out and praised the decline in crime rates. The White House came out and said, we are doing the work and crime is down. The whole time they knew that crime was up. And we're experiencing it. I don't believe for a second the economy is good. They are lying. And every single time we say something is incongruous with your statement and reality, they just say, that's just you. Let me tell you about violent crime. People are talking about it all over the place. Tren de Aragua in New York City. The media said that there was no apartment takeovers in Aurora, Colorado. Guess what? There were. Now they're saying, oh, but JD Vance, it's only a handful. Only a handful. Right. We are experiencing the crime. We are experiencing the bad economy, and they keep spitting in our faces and saying it's not true. Who are they lying to? You know, the economy thing is going to be interesting because I think that they're putting up these numbers. Republicans say it's not true. Donald Trump says it's not true. The media says, fact check, false. Donald Trump, you just lie all the time. And then without saying a word, they update their numbers. Let's read the story here from Real Clear Investigations. Stealth edit. FBI quietly revises violent crime stats. When the FBI originally released the final crime data for 2022 in September of 23, reported that the nation's violent crime rate fell by 2.1%. This quickly became and remains a Democratic Party talking point to counter Donald Trump's claim of soaring crime. But the FBI has quietly revised those numbers, releasing new data that shows violent crime increased by 4.5%. The new data includes thousands more murders, rapes, robberies, and aggravated assaults. The Bureau, which has been at the center of partisan storms, made no mention of these revisions in its September 2024 press release. RCI discovered the change through a cryptic reference on the FBI website that states, quote, the 2022 violent crime rate that has been updated for inclusion in CIUS 2023. But there's no mention that the number increased. One only sees the change by downloading the FBI's new crime data and comparing it to the file released last year. After the FBI released its new crime data in September, a USA Today headline read, quote, violent crime dropped for third straight year in 2023, including murder and rape. It's been over 3 weeks since the FBI released the revised data. The Bureau's lack of acknowledgement or explanation about the significant change concerns researchers. Here's where I believe it is fair to say this is political. It was intentionally done by a corrupt DOJ to benefit the political elites in the Uniparty. Quote, I have checked the data on total violent crime from 2004 to 2022. Carl Moody, a professor at the College of William and Mary who specialized in studying crime, told Real Clear Investigations. There were no revisions from 04 to 2015. And from 16 to 20, there were small changes of less than 1 percentage point. The huge changes in 21 and 22, especially without an explanation, make it difficult to trust the FBI data. It's up to the FBI to explain what they have done. And they haven't explained these large changes. Dr. Thomas Marvel, the president of Just Tech Research, a criminal justice firm, told RCI. I believe that when you look at those quotes and that information and you compare it, or I should say juxtapose it with the statements made by the White House and by Merrick Garland himself, it stands to reason the data was intentionally obfuscated so they could give themselves a pat on the back and claim they were doing their jobs when this country was burning to the ground. I know, fact check, says the journalist. Is the country really burning to the ground? No, it's a figure of speech, but that's the game they play. Donald Trump will say crime is soaring and they'll say false. No, it isn't. It's up, but it's not soaring. Spare me your lies, dude. They say the actual changes in crimes are extensive. The updated data for 22 report that there were 80,000 more violent crimes than in 21. There were an additional 1,699 murders, 7,780 rapes, 33,000 robberies, 37,000 aggravated assaults. The question naturally arises, should the FBI's 2020, the question naturally arises, should the FBI's 2023 numbers be believed? Take a look at this. This is shocking. Violent crime rate, 80,029. Look at these. Without the increase, the drop in violent crime in 23 would have been less than half as large, only 1.6 instead of the reported drop of 3.5. The FBI isn't the only government agency that has been revising its data. The Bureau of Labor massively overestimated the number of jobs created during the year that ended in March by 818,000 people. I'm going to tell you right now. We know for the 23 data, which is the latest report, that it's missing around half of the police jurisdictions in major cities. So no, we cannot trust this. The FBI's crime stats revision reveal how much guesswork is involved in even the final numbers often seized on by politicians. The FBI doesn't simply count reported crimes. Instead, it offers estimates by extrapolating data from police departments that report only partial year data. The Bureau also makes estimates for cities that report no data. The FBI's method of generating these estimates range over time, and it affects the figures they report. The FBI processes, such as how it tries to estimate unreported figures, has long been a black box, even to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the DOJ's actual agency. Anderson said, when he headed for the Bureau of Justice Statistics, we definitely would have highlighted in a press release or report the 6.6% change recorded for 2022, which moved the numbers from a drop to a rise in violent crime. Another problem with FBI crime data is its reliance upon reported crimes. Most crimes go unreported. Now, this is where we can break down the manipulations. I think we have this, the Marshall Project from 2023. 4 reasons we should worry about missing crime data. The FBI's crime data is still incomplete and politicians are taking advantage. The Marshall Project has been screaming this for some time, that they are not submitting the information. Take a look at this. 6,097 agencies submitted no 2022 data, 32% of all police agencies. When they come out and they say crime is down, we know they're lying, because what they're really saying is police departments aren't reporting crimes. They can say that overall reported crimes are down. However, understand we haven't received all data on crimes, so this stat is meaningless. September 23, 2024. Statement from Vice President Harris on record declines in crime. All right, let's slow down. These are the 2023 numbers that have been revised, right? The violent crime drop in 2023. Now we're wondering about 2024. What Real Clear Investigations is saying is that without the increase, the drop in violent crime in 23 would have been less than half as large, only 1.6. Not a record by any means. But we are still presuming, based on this absurdity of 21 and 22's numbers being messed up, that 23 is also a lie. What Real Clear Investigations is saying is that now that we have new numbers on 2022, it shows the crime drop from the 23 report to 24 is half as large as they thought it was. However, they are further extrapolating, or at least entertaining the probability that the 23 numbers themselves are wrong. The 24 numbers are wrong. I'm sorry, I mean to say that they're now saying, look, if they were wrong in 21, 22, and 23, 2024 is going to be underreported, and we're not going to get the real numbers till later. Knowing, as the Marshall Project has stated already, that police agencies are not reporting this data, it is reasonable to conclude that crime is actually up, or at the very least stagnant, or even if it's down, it's only a little bit, right? Not record numbers. Kamala Harris put out this statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Every American and every community should have the freedom to live safe from violence, harm, fear. Yet before Biden and I took office, too many families were experiencing crime as our nation witnessed the highest increase in murders in recent history. That is why we immediately got to work in our counties, and this is all just manipulations. They put out this statement. Today's new data submitted to the FBI confirms. They say last year we saw the largest ever one-year decrease in the homicide rate, which now stands 16% below its 2020 level. Violent crime is at a near 50-year low. Our progress is continuing, blah, blah, blah. I can only conclude that as we have Merrick Garland and Kamala Harris coming out and saying, look at these fantastic numbers, and it's turning out it's not correct, it's false, and that the FBI only did this quietly with a stealth edit, I feel it is fair to opine upon this information, upon information and belief, I would say, they intentionally did this to benefit the Harris campaign. I will stress, I take pride in my thoughts and opinions, and I recognize they could be wrong. What I am saying is, when you look at the crime data being incorrect, when you look at the media attacking Donald Trump when he says crime is up, and now we're learning that crime was actually up in that data, with the statements made by Merrick Garland and the White House, I believe it is reasonable to assume that they intentionally obfuscate these numbers so they can put out statements praising themselves for the good job they've done. By all means, you tell me how this happens. Because Merrick Garland could have just said, we're still waiting on revised numbers. I won't give a comment. Instead, in June, Attorney General Merrick Garland greeted the latest quarterly update on FBI stats like a conquering hero. This data makes clear that last year's historic decline in violent crime is continuing. In the first 3 months of the year, violent crime has decreased by over 15% compared to the same period last year, and murder has decreased over 26%. During the presidential debate with Kamala Harris, Trump argued the FBI, they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was fraud. Trump was partially correct. There's no reason to think the FBI stats are deliberately fraudulent, but large gaps and inconsistencies in the collection data mean the numbers aren't offering a complete picture. There's no reason. There certainly is. Kamala Harris put out a statement, and so did Merrick Garland, praising themselves for the work they did. But the data was incomplete. A reasonable assessment, an honest assessment would say, while it does appear in preliminary data that crime is down and we are working hard every day, these numbers are incomplete, so we ask for your patience until the revised numbers come out and we can give you a better assessment on where we currently are as a nation. Thank you for your time. That's not what they said. They said, look at our record decline in crime. We're so good at everything we do. As the Marshall Project explains in 21, quote, in an effort to fully modernize the system, the FBI stopped taking data from the old summary system and only accepted data through the new system. Thousands of police agencies fell through the cracks because they didn't catch up with changes on time. That year, Miami-Dade, New York City, and Los Angeles did not submit their data. Philadelphia reported 9 months worth of data. Chicago reported 7 months, and Phoenix reported only 1 month. For 2021, the FBI noted crime estimates will fill in the gaps where data is not available. The stumbling transition to the new FBI reporting system meant big variations in the number of law enforcement agencies that participate by year. And there you have it, my friends. Crime is up. This is a report from September 26 from Fox News. FBI's flawed crime data highlighted by Chicago's 118 missing murders. Sean Kennedy says the FBI figures are not accurate because law enforcement agencies are submitting data differently. We knew this in September. We called this out and they lied. They lied. Here's the clip for you. Trump was right.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime.
Trump was right. The FBI only had partial data from big cities with high numbers of crime. There's a fascinating way you can look at this because I covered this several years ago. We looked at various cities' crime rates, and sure enough, Democrat-run cities tend to have substantially higher crime than Republican-run cities. What we found is rather interesting. Some places like New York, for instance, have the highest number of crimes, or they did several years ago, but not per capita. So that's fairly obvious. New York's still in the top 10 for crime per capita. New York's getting a lot worse, mind you. But at the time, this is well before Tren de Aragua started taking over Times Square. Basically, look, if you got 2.5 million people living in Manhattan, you're going to have a percentage of crime, and so the number looks big. You got to be careful because some people come out and say there were 1,000 murders in New York. That's crazy. And it's like, yeah, you best, but there's 13 million people in the metro. It's massive. Compared to a town of 100, you can't have 1,000 murders in a town of 100, right? So per capita is what matters. New York wasn't the highest per capita, but they were some of the largest numbers. If those numbers are excluded in their bulk from the big cities with density issues, crime goes down. It's almost like it was on purpose now, wasn't it? The Wall Street Journal even called this out. Contrary to media myth, U.S. urban crime rates are up. This is from September. The FBI's flawed stats hide the disturbing results of the defund the police movement since 2020. And of course, the Ferguson effect. Now, I got a clip for you later. I've been mentioning it. CNN. I'm sorry, my friends. We have a cognitive crisis in this country. People who can't think. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe they've been gargling fluoride or something. I have no idea. I'm only half kidding. But people who don't do the research, I don't know where they get their information from. I describe it. We talked about this yesterday on Timcast IRL with Rudyard Lynch of What If Alt History, an amazing YouTube channel, by the way. I said, I think the woke can be easily described as the ant spiral of death. It's a point I made a long time ago. But the way ants work is they leave pheromone trails. They find food, they come back, and they can follow that trail to where the food was. But if ants walk in a circle, they may create a pheromone trail that loops around and goes nowhere. The ants will then all keep running in a circle until they die of dehydration and starvation. It's the ant circle of death or death spiral. I believe that's what the woke is. They're listening to each other, listen to each other. So there's no new information coming in. They have no idea what's going on outside of them, but they're adamant they're correct because they keep hearing the same thing. If they talk to 5 people, it's a game of telephone that loops back on itself. A woke person says, Trump's a fascist. That person hears it, tells their friend. Person A tells person B, tells person C, tells person A. Person A then hears it from person C and says, see, I was right the whole time, despite the fact that they were the origin of the information. This is why you have these insane corporate news outlets that are living in Wall-E world, unaware of what's going on around them. They say crime is fine because they live in gated communities. They don't see the crime, and therefore it must be A-okay. Unless, and of course, it happens to them. And that is the story of Anna Kasparian. Leftist, playing the same grift as everybody else until one day a homeless man went up behind her and, well, I try to keep it family friendly, but let's just say he went up behind her and you can probably surmise what happened next. She was bending over to pick up her dog's droppings. Shocked by this, she reported, I was just assaulted. And the left attacked her for it, for demonizing marginalized peoples and the homeless, because they don't want any information from outside their deranged, delusional bubble to enter into their brains. So Anna Kasparian's right wing now. She calls herself unaligned, but of course that means she's far right. They're saying she pulled the full Dave Rubin. Yeah, if you leave the cult in any way, regardless of your opinions, you're far right. Case in point, me. I'm still fairly liberal and everybody knows it. But if you're in the cult, they can't tell the difference. They have no idea what's actually going on. This is going to have a profound impact, of course, on the election. Tren de Aragua is taking over Times Square. And of course, the people in New York are experiencing it. Now, I ask you, good madam and sirs, how must it feel to know that violent crime is on the rise? You're experiencing it. And then when you turn on the TV, they say, you're wrong. When Don Lemon went to Atlantic City, walks up to a guy and says, who you vote for? The guy says Trump. He goes, why Trump? And he goes, the economy's no good. And Don Lemon says, actually, the economy is really great. You're wrong. The numbers show it's good. And the guy laughs and he's like, dude. I liken it to that joke from Family Guy where Peter Griffin's in the elevator with one other person. Peter farts and then says the other guy, it was you. Like, who are you trying to convince, bro? That guy knows he didn't do it. This guy on the boardwalk knows he can't afford groceries for his family. The economy's good. Trust me. The stats say so. Okay, fine. Then I must be suffering because I can't afford to buy coconut milk. Now, me, I can afford my coconut milk. Don't get me wrong. But the prices are way up. Yo, I bought whipped cream. I like strawberries and whipped cream. It's keto, actually. Strawberries have about a half carb, but a lot of fiber. So it's actually pretty good for you. And they're delicious, and everyone likes strawberries. You put a little whipped cream on them. So I bought some Ready Whip, $6. I'm not kidding. $5.99. And I'm just standing there being like, wow, man, what is going on? But they tell you the economy is better than ever. You're in New York. You walk in Times Square and you say Tren de Aragua, 11-year-olds with guns, and they're not getting arrested. And then the media says, you're wrong. Crime's down. And you're wondering why it's so insane. Now, look, I got friends in Chicago. They keep saying crime is down, and I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I'm hearing stories about how they're erecting barriers in front of department stores, how Mag Mile is collapsing. Yo, I saw a video. This blew my mind. There's this Instagram channel, there's Urban Exploration. And they were like breaking into a skyscraper in Chicago. And I was like, wow, an abandoned skyscraper in Chicago, like abandoned? Yo, I recognize the inside. Man, 15 years ago, I was in that building. 15, wow, it's crazy. I'm hanging out and I'd be there almost every single day. It was a shopping area. And I'm like, it's abandoned now? How did all these businesses shut down, dude? This is downtown Chicago. I couldn't believe it. It's crazy. I mean, down in Chicago is density 101. I mean, there's business and foot traffic. How do you go to business? The economy is not doing well. Crime is up, and they are lying to us. Man, this is a bombshell shocker. Surprise, surprise. Right in the middle of October with the election underway, without saying a word, they revised their numbers. Crime is up. Can you believe it? Of course you can. Because we all saw what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop story. Absolutely insane. Smash the like button, my friends. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with everyone you know. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, Apple Podcasts, please leave us a good review. I humbly request. It really does help. Next segment will be coming up shortly, and we'll see you all then.